Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode number 68. It's time for us to preview the next opponent coming up for the Duke Blue Devils. That would be the Wofford Terriers. I am Jason Evans. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Donald Wine. Donald, how you doing this morning?
It's early. I'll say that. I mean, it's not as early as we've done some of these. I know
Yeah.
sometimes we are up before the sun, but thankfully we waited in this era of non-daylight saving to wait until the sun came out before we recorded. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah. For people who think, oh my God, it's so much fun. Those guys just get to talk Duke basketball and well, sometimes you got to wake up early in the morning to talk Duke basketball. It's not as much fun.
Yes, busy schedules for both of us. So
Exactly. Busy schedule because, by the way, I am headed to Las Vegas this weekend. Donald, I thought I was probably not going to be able to watch this Wofford game. I've got a lot of plans when I'm going to be in Las Vegas, going with a few other couples, my wife and I, and it's very busy. But I realized the game is at noon East Coast time. That's 9 a.m. Vegas time.
yep.
Speaking of waking up early, Jason's going to wake up early, head down to the sports book. I'm hoping they'll offer all kinds of crazy exotics. Like, I probably am going to do like, I'm going to see if I can do like a three-way parlay on Cooper Flag stats and stuff like that. I think he's going to be a very mad person after the way the Kentucky game ended, and he's going to take it out on poor Wofford. Yeah, but in any event, let's get to previewing them. And you and I have divided up our responsibilities as we will throughout this season. And we will start with your responsibility first, which is have a look at who they've played and what this team's schedule has been like so far. Tell us more about Wofford.
Yeah, so the Wofford Terriers, who are out of the Southern Conference, they obviously haven't got to conference play yet. They are 1-2 on the season thus far. They started out with a 112-58 victory at home over Erskine, which is not in Division One. So Ken Pom does not rate that game, but 112-58. I don't care who you're playing, Jason. That's good.
Yeah.
So far, that's the only good they've had this season. They hit the road to take on Lipscomb. They lost there 78-69, and then last night, this is the reason why we're doing it this morning. They lost to Presbyterian on the road 71-68. They are 144 in Ken Pom, 160 in Bart Torvik. And Jason, this is easily the biggest game on their schedule. They don't play anyone else currently in Ken Pom's top 100 this season. So, of course, this is that one trip that some of these teams get to take to a big time school. In this case, they get to come to Cameron Indoor Stadium and face the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, by the way, that last year they had several games against Power Five opponents. They played Tennessee, Virginia Tech, and Oklahoma State. They lost all three of those games, but they didn't really get massacred in any of them. Both Tennessee and Virginia Tech beat them by around 20 or so, which indicates a comfortable but not a blowout win. The Oklahoma State game, they only lost by 6, and this Wofford team, even though you say they're 1-2 on the season so far, uh, the advanced metrics, the folks who preview these conferences, these smaller conferences like the Southern Conference, they say that Wofford is probably the best team or among the best teams in the Southern Conference, one of 3 or 4 teams that could come out of this conference and make their way into the NCAA tournament.
And speaking of NCAA tournament, this is why people know who Wofford is, right? If you think back, it doesn't feel like long ago, Jason, but I think it's been over a decade that TNT and TBS have gotten the contract. Might be closer to 15 years at this point. And if you remember when they first started, they talked with Kenny and Chuck and Ernie Johnson in the studio about, hey, here's what we're gonna do with our coverage. And famously, Charles Barkley said, y'all are going to clown me, but I don't know what a Wofford is, but I know college basketball and I know basketball. And so everyone was like, what is a Wofford? And everyone realized, oh, the Wofford Terriers are this team that always like does decently and you see them lose to big teams and then they get to the NCAA tournament and they scare somebody. So
Yeah.
make no mistake, this is the team that is not going to be blinded by the lights of Cameron Indoor Stadium. They have played big games, as you mentioned, against big time opponents and big time situations, and they hold their own. So this is going to be an interesting test, especially coming after the loss to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're the classic 14 or 15 seed that puts a real
Hmm.
scare in a 2
Yep.
or a 3. That is sort of the Wofford profile. So let's get to the advanced metrics on them. You mentioned, of course, they're 144 in Ken Pom, and Ken Pomeroy's computers predict a 85-65 victory for Duke, a 20-point victory back home in Cameron. Wofford, by the way, as we get into how they've done thus far this season in the advanced metrics, really, really slow-paced team. We've had this we've had this theme of Duke, trying to speed up teams that play a little bit slower. Wofford is among the bottom 50 or so teams in the country on both offense and defense in pace. So that is something that they will be trying to do against Duke to get Duke to slow down a little bit. I don't think you'll see Duke slow down very much. This is a team that Ken Pomeroy says is much better on offense than defense. And that is because they're a good shooting team on offense. They're hitting better than 35% of their threes on the season, 55% of their 2-point shots. Those are both very, very nice numbers. They do a poor job of getting to the free throw line, like one of the bottom 10, 20 teams in the country at free throw rate. And once they get there, they only hit like 63, 65% of their free throws. It's early in the season. That may be a little bit of an aberration, but this is a team that mostly wants to sit outside and shoot three-pointers. They're not a team that goes to the basket a tremendous amount, not a team that plays through a guy in the post who's trying to score in the post. More than 50% of their shots come from outside the three-point line. So, their job is they're moving it around the perimeter to try and get a three-point shot. They're among the top 25 teams in the land at their three-point attempt rate. Not a big team. Not a surprise that I'd be saying that about a smaller school like this. They're mostly going to be playing four guards surrounding one like 6'8" or 6'9" big man, but they do a decent job of getting offensive rebounds. I think mostly because they're shooting from the outside a lot, and that creates long rebounds, and it allows you to, maybe pick up those long rebounds. It's not that they are, going in there with their 6'3" guards and trying to grab rebounds from opposing 7-footers and the such. On defense, they do not do a very good job of forcing turnovers. They're like bottom 30 in the country at opponent turnover rate. We've seen this Duke team thus far be pretty darn good at turnovers, except in the final minute against Kentucky. So, I feel like that should be an area Duke doesn't really need to worry about that much against Wofford. Wofford also has done a poor job of guarding the 3-point line, allowing their opponents to hit better than 40% from the outside. That's one of the major reasons why Wofford has struggled to beat some of these sort of other mid-tier kind of teams that they've been playing so far on the season. Let me get to my next thing, which is I'm going to talk about the players on this Wofford team. Not a lot of them. You don't need to get into really deep kind of stuff with this team because they're a team that uses the bench a lot. They don't really have a one dominant player that you need to worry about stopping too much. They are, by the way, a rarity in these times of the transfer portal, NIL, and the such. Wofford has somehow managed to keep their team together over the years. Last year, they had two guys graduate and move on, but neither one of them were like huge contributors. The rest of the team is basically back. They didn't lose anybody to the transfer portal, which is quite an accomplishment in this day and age. And as a result, it means that this is a team, full of juniors and seniors who have a ton of experience playing together and play pretty well as a team. Their best player is probably 6'3" guard Corey Tripp. He averaged 15 points per game last year. The ball tends to be in his hands on offense a lot. He is a good passer, and he's their leading assist guy in addition to being a top-tier scorer. He was a bad three-point shooter last season. Shot just 27% from three, but he's gotten off to a much better start this year, and he's over 40% on his three-pointers. I've looked at his career numbers. They're not that impressive, and I suspect that the 40+% three-point shooting that he's been doing probably will not last over the course of the season. That said, I wouldn't just leave him wide open out there. Their best big man is 6'9" center Kyler Filewich, who's off to a pretty nice start to the season. He's really, really close to averaging a double-double, getting 9.7 points per game, 10.7 rebounds per game. And they play through him a lot more than you might imagine in the post. He gets to the high post sometimes, and he looks for his teammates, cutting on the perimeter or cutting to the basket. He's getting close to 4 assists per game, which is a pretty big number for a big man. He's their second leading assist guy, and that's impressive. And a couple other personnel things I wanted to note. As a way of getting teams confused, they have two 6'3" guards with the last name Bailey.
Are they brothers?
I don't believe so, because one of them has been at Wofford and the other one transferred in. They might be. I haven't been able to look that up.
Brothers don't have to go to the same school at the same time, Jason. One can transfer in. I'm just saying in jest. I don't think they are related, but
yeah,
it is interesting. Now the question is going to be: will they have just Bailey on the back of their jersey? Will they have like an initial or two initials or what have you?
Yeah, in an effort to confuse you. So the better one is probably 6'3" guard Dylan Bailey. A guy who was second leading scorer on the team last year, averaging 12 points per game, about the same this year. Pretty good outside shooter there. And the other one is 6'3" guard Justin Bailey, who is their only transfer. The reason to pay attention, he came over from USC upstate. The reason to pay attention to Justin Bailey is he's probably their best defender. He's a defensive specialist, long arms, very good anticipation, has a high steal rate. He's a guy who gets a lot of steals. I would bet, I mean, like, look, they are sorely undersized. And Wofford, probably doesn't have many guys who match up favorably with just about anybody on Duke's team, just in terms of the size. But if I had to bet, I would think that Justin Bailey would get the assignment of trying to stop Con Knipple, who I would imagine Wofford has scouted and knows is someone that you need to stay on so that he doesn't rain threes down upon you. Last personnel note that I want to bring up, and you're going to be like, why is Jason talking about this guy? They've got a bench player. He's sort of one of their top wings off the bench named Anthony Arrington.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, why are you saying yeah?
Oh no, I know the name, but go ahead and tell the people why.
Okay. Ant, and I can call him Ant because I know him personally. Ant went to the same high school I went to and the same high school my two sons went to. Um, he is probably the best player in Galloway high school history. We went to a very small school. When I graduated, there were like 60 kids in my graduating class. It was about the same with my two sons. Not a big basketball program, as evidenced by the fact that I could play there and my sons could play there. But Ant was pretty darn good, and he graduated a few years ago. And it's worth noting that one of the things that I've done over the past decade or so is that I am the voice of the Galloway High School basketball team. I call their home games. And so I probably have screamed into a microphone, Anthony Arrington for three, more than just about anyone else on the planet. He's a very good outside shooter. Last year, Ant hit 46% from long range. He's getting a larger role this year, playing almost 20 points per game, 20 minutes per game, I should say. And I'm a big fan of Ant. So there may be moments where Wofford hits a three-pointer and I cheer instead of boo.
Jason, I think you have mentioned his name on this show when you talked about the fact that you call
Yeah,
those games. So that's why when I saw his name, I was like, "Is that the same one?" And then you mentioned, I was like, "Oh, I know. Go ahead and tell the people."
yeah.
So no, that's a real cool note, and we always love the personal connections to players on the show. Jason, let's talk about we've talked about Wofford. Let's talk about what Duke needs to do and kind of some of these things to look out for on Saturday. The first thing is, in my mind, is the ball movement. If you noticed against Kentucky, we talked about how the ball movement just wasn't there, particularly in the second half. The assist rate was down. It was down, below 50%. We love it to be above 50. I think really you want it to be closer to two-thirds assists to field goal rate. But I think the ball movement needs to continue to be there. And I think this is a good way to get back on track because, as you mentioned, Wofford is going to a lot like they're not going to allow a lot of penetration. They want to defend you and they want to, kind of be in your face a little bit. But I do think there's opportunity because we are so tall, because we are bigger than them, to be able to pass over defenses, find man in the middle. I mean, even some of these kickouts, if guys drive the lane, kick out to an open guy for three, we haven't seen a lot of that so far this year. Maybe that's something we want to work into our repertoire. Focus on taking and making good shots. We had a bad game. We're going to leave that in the past. So we focus on the next shot, and hopefully these shots continue to go down. Because again, I think if we hit a third of those shots that we missed, we're killing Kentucky, right? So we can take that positive and say, okay, let's focus on, again, getting open, getting good shots, and this time making them in the friendly confines of Cameron Indoor Stadium. And I think the last thing for me is this would be a game where you focus in on the guards. And the reason why is because, yes, they have shorter guards, but also the guards are the guys who are kind of impacting, or Wofford's guards are the guys who are kind of impacting the game the most for their team. And despite the fact they have guys in the middle, we have guys that can kind of neutralize that. And then, of course, there's Cooper Flag. But I want to see, Con Knipple get back and have a decent game. I want to see Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster try to put it together for two halves. We've kind of seen one half good, one
Yeah.
half not so good from both of them. Let's see if we can get a complete game out of those guys. And then again, we don't know Sion James's status for Saturday. Hopefully he's okay. But if I will personally not be surprised if they hold him out of this game just to make sure that everything is okay. But that means next man up, right? Isaiah Evans, Darren Harris. This might be a game where they finally get in and can, get some extended minutes. Mason Gillis when he's in the game. You want him to be able to, also score points in addition to all the other things that he has done well so far this season. So I want the guards to really focus in on having a good game because I think this is the game where they can be the focal point for Duke.
Yeah, and regarding Sion, I got a little bit of intel that this is not a terribly serious situation. I think you're right. It's very possible he gets held out this weekend, but it's not the kind of thing that it's expected to be at all long term. A
And
long
Jason,
term.
to
Yeah,
be clear, it didn't feel like it, right? Like when he
right.
took the charge, it felt like, okay, he, kind of got the wind knocked out of him, his shoulders hurt. Like I know it looked like he was trying to put it back in the socket, but again, I've suffered that injury on a basketball court. I know you have run into a pick or two or set a pick or two
Yeah.
in your life. Everyone kind of had that sort of injury on a basketball court and knows, yeah, it really hurts. It's almost like a stinger, but it eventually goes away and you feel back to normal. It just takes a couple of days. So, yeah, he's going to be sore, despite the fact that he has more muscles than God intended. But he's going to be sore for a couple of days, and I think that could be enough to just say, hey, we don't need you for Wofford. We need you for some of these bigger games that we got coming up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so with that, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we got to talk about a future scheduling note for the Duke Blue Devils, a really cool game coming up, and we'll tell you about it in just a moment.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods.
That's right, Duke fans. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that it's exactly what I wanted feeling. Somehow, they've created a place where you can find the perfect gift for anyone.
Perfect gifts indeed, Jason. I just got an acupuncture mat so that I can hit those pressure points that bother me on a regular basis. And they have a can holder for the shower so I can relax with my favorite beverage if I need a moment to wash the day away.
Yeah, I wonder what beverage that is. Okay, folks, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They have donated, Donald, more than $3 million to date.
That's a lot of money. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's DUKEBB. Uncommongoods.com/DukeBB for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
All right, back from that quick commercial break. Jason and Donald here to guide you through just a couple more minutes of small items here on the latest DBR Bites. And we will start with this one. Duke and Army have announced that they will be playing a 2-year series over the next couple seasons, starting in 2025. And the first game of that series, will take place on Veterans Day, November 11th of 2025, and it will be played at West Point. This is a rarity for Duke to be playing a smaller school on the road, be playing a true road game, against a other than like the contract we have with Arizona, that kind of thing. For the most part, Duke doesn't do this kind of thing, but Donald, it is clear this is something Duke really wanted to do to sort of honor Army and the commitment that those folks have toward our nation. And I think it's really, really cool that Duke's going to be going up there to play at West Point.
Yeah, I when I saw this, I think I sent it to you almost immediately because I was like, "Yo, this is amazing." That like you said, you don't see that not just from Duke, but from anyone of the big teams in college basketball. They're not going to the mid majors of the world often to play road games. And obviously there's a link here in the fact that it's Coach K. It's, Veterans Day. It's a way to kind of, honor veterans of all kinds, not just Army servicemen, but everyone. But I think it's really cool for us to do that. And Jason, I'll point out that this is not the first time that Duke has gone to Crystal Arena in West Point. They went in November of 1997. Of course, it was to welcome back Coach K when he was coaching at the time. It was the first game of the 1997-98 season. And at that game, I believe it was the third largest attended game in West Point history. They have since surpassed it a couple of times.
Right. Yeah,
But the
it's
current,
now the sixth. They say it's
yeah,
the sixth highest attended game. By the way, really quick, it's worth noting Crystal Arena technically has a capacity of 5,043 people,
yeah, I
but
was
for
just
that
gonna say.
last game, they got 5,055. I guess they had 8 people standing room only, and it'll be interesting to see if they have even more than that for this one.
Well, I was going to say the arena record was set in February 2014 against Navy. Of course, that'd be a big game to have. 5,195 people were in there. So I don't know where in the AC duct that they put people.
They got
We're
folks
used to
hanging
that.
from the rafters, man.
Right, we got Cameron. We're used to cramming people into random places, hanging from the rafters like banners. So I think Duke could easily break that if Army wants to distribute that many tickets, we will break that record very, very easily. But this is one where as soon as it happened, I know in the DBR forums and just online, a lot of people were like, "How do I get a ticket to this event?" I think it's going to be really cool. I mean, I don't know how Army's going to be distributing this. Reserve two for Coach K and Mickey. I think other than that, I think
Yeah,
everyone
right.
else is kind of on their own. Jason and I might be doing a coin flip to see who works press for that game, just so we can get in the building. But again, a really, really solid way to honor our veterans, but also just a affordable opponent. We love playing Navy in the sense, again, they kind of give you a lot of
Army.
different
You
sets.
you said Navy. We love
Oh,
playing
excuse
Army.
me, Army. Yep, Army. I'm over here by Annapolis, so Navy's usually front of mind. But yes, Army. Playing them, they just like they did the last week. They present a bunch of different defenses at you, a bunch of different looks, and it's a way for you to kind of encompass what you could see down the road this season. There will be no triple option. We learned that last weekend. But who knows? Maybe they adopt it by next Veterans Day. But again, very, very cool to do that. And again, a very cool way for Duke to hit the road for a true road game.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a very tough ticket because they want to let the students, they want to let the cadets get a chance to see that game.
And
And
there's 5,000 of them. So if
right,
if they all get in, there's no room left for the players. So,
exactly. The arena, the
so there's
arena
going to be
only
some hard cuts.
only seats 5,000. So yeah, it's going to be a very difficult ticket to come by, a in demand thing. I love Duke playing true road games. I know that I know there's a reason why they don't necessarily prepare you in quite the way sort of a neutral game does for what the postseason brings. But play a couple true road games is a nice thing. Although it's dangerous. Look, if you play a top 150 team, and I'm not saying Army will be. Army generally is a little bit worse than that. You play a top 150 team on the road, and it can show up as a bad loss on your resume. And you can be like, hey, wait, but we played it on the road, and the committee's like, we don't care. It's still a
Mhm.
bad loss. So, but it's great that Duke is doing this with a worthy institution like Army. Donald,
And I
before
will
we
say, and I will
oh,
say,
go ahead.
Jason, I think
Yeah,
it might be we've talked about this on the show. It may not be the only true road game that we have next year in the non-conference slate. I know they've been talking about potentially adding another one. We play Kansas next year in the
Champions
Champions
Classic.
Classic.
Yep.
That might be something that might be a home and home. They've been discussing that adding later. So don't be surprised if going to Army is not the only place we travel to next year
Yeah, and by the way, an interesting thing, the Champions Classic next year is also in New York, at
at the
Madison
Garden. Yep.
Square. Yeah, at the Garden. So there may be sort of an interesting sort of chance for people to have, like a double header, a kind of situation. I haven't
Well,
really
that
looked at
game is on
exact dates
November
and stuff.
18th, so of 2025, the
Oh,
Champions
so it'd be a
Classic.
week
So
apart.
it's a
Yeah, yeah.
week, yeah. So unless you live in New York, I don't know if you're staying up there for a week. You can if you want to. I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's very very nice country up there in West Point
There's a
out here.
there's a
So
lot to do in New York.
yeah. But at the same time, yes, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the team does it, right? Because
Right.
normally they go up to a game and come back, but do they stay a couple extra days or kind of bridge those games and kind of stay up there for the week. I don't know. I don't think they will, but it's interesting, yes, that they have two games in the state of New York in a week.
All right. As we move on, last item we have here, we just got to mention this. There's a lot of Dookies in the NBA, but there's one of them that I think maybe people didn't expect to have the impact that he has been having lately. That is Jared McCain, just a rookie, just a handful of games into his NBA career. 4 games ago, Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers, their top two player in that team, Joel Embiid and then Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey got hurt, and he's been out for 4 games. And so Philadelphia was sort of had to press someone on the bench into action. And that person was Jared McCain. Donald, what Jared McCain has done over the past 4 games has lit up the NBA. People are talking about it all over the place. Here are his stats over the past 4 games. So he had 18 points, then 27, then 23. And then last night, Jared McCain went for 34 points, 10 assists, 34 and 10 from my man. He hit almost 50% of his 3-pointers. He played 38 minutes, and they were playing, by the way, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are the only undefeated team in the NBA. The Sixers are off to a rough start. The Sixers are just 2-9. Joel Embiid has missed virtually every game so far, and they're really struggling. But they played the Cavs neck and neck this entire contest, and the reason it was a close competitive game without Joel Embiid, without Tyrese Maxey, without Andre Drummond, without Kyle, like Philadelphia is very injured. It was a close game because Jared McCain was out of this world good. And he is at the point now where even when Tyrese Maxey comes back, I guarantee you the 76ers coaching staff is going to try to figure out a way to continue to get major minutes and major times with the ball in his hands for Jared McCain. The last thing I have to say on this is it is a fairly weak rookie class. No one in this rookie class so far has really stood out as dominating and being a major player in the NBA. You know, there are a lot of guys who look like they'll have roles, but not necessarily star roles. As a result, if you go online right now, you go to FanDuel, and you say, I want to bet on who's going to be NBA Rookie of the Year this year, the number one choice, the odds-on pick, is none other than Jared McCain. The 16th pick in the draft is looking like the best player in this draft class. Wow, what a great kid, and I love that he was a Dookie before he started dominating in Philadelphia.
Jason, if I had told you back in April that when given the opportunity, Jared McCain was going to excite and wow and really become a focal point of the offense very quickly, I would be telling the truth because that's exactly what I said back in April. He just needed the chance that I said
Good
that he
call.
would be a guy that would endear himself to that Philly fan base. He does it through the hard work, the work ethic, the drive, and again just that smile, right? Like that was the thing is he's having fun out there when he's doing it on a Sixers team that has been not great so far. So I'm really glad that he overcame in the preseason he took that hit to the chest and ended up going to the hospital overnight. I'm glad he recovered from that and has been thriving. And hopefully he continues to thrive as the season continues.
Yeah, and by the way, it hasn't just been, it's easy to think, oh, he's just sitting outside bombing away from three. That has not been the case. He's shooting a lot of 3-pointers. He was 6 of 13 on threes last night, but he was 12 of 26 overall. He is not just taking 3-pointers. He has the ball in his hands. They're running the offense through him. A lot of the 3-pointers he's taking are off the dribble, and he's also, sort of pump faking kind of stuff from the outside and then going around his man and getting in the lane for medium range pull-ups and for those driving one-handed layups that he likes to shoot, where he sort of keeps the person away from the ball by using his body. Very, very creative scorer thus far, and the Sixers are just I'm sure they got the steal of the draft. There's no question about it. No question about it. And Jared, and I know his parents are beaming from ear to ear. We know them, friends of the podcast, the McCain family. So really great for all of them.
It's awesome for him. It's awesome for them. Again, like you said, it was a whole family operation, him getting to this point, and he included his family in that.
Yeah, and Jace, his brother Jace,
who's still at Duke.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always been a family oriented operation, and I know Jace is just the only thing Jace is probably just like seething inside is that he can't get to all these games because he's still at Duke. But
Right.
other than that, like he's super happy for him. But yeah, I hope it continues and really hope that he continues to carve out a role for himself in that Philly organization.
With that, we are done with episode number 68 of DBR Bites. Donald and Jason, we hope you have a good time watching the Wofford game on Saturday. I'll be at the sports book. I'll try. I think I'll be able to hop on and chat with you about it, Donald. Not 100%. Like I said, I got a busy day.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
we'll talk about it. We'll see. Worst comes to worst, I'll certainly let you know how my wagers went. Until then, here's the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.